Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So first up today, Jonah Kreider posted her interview with Elon Musk. I will include a link below. Not a ton of new information about Tesla. However, one thing I wanted to mention, Elon did talk a bit about the global needs for batteries, essentially giving us some more context. He talked about that 300 terawatt hour number. That's equivalent to 300,000 gigawatt hours of batteries needed. And he said right now, basically annual production is in the neighborhood globally of around 1,000 gigawatt hours. And if we assume that an average battery lifespan is going to be 20 years, we would need roughly 15,000 gigawatt hours of annual battery production over the course of 20 years to basically have that capacity built out. So right now we're about maybe at 1/15 of that global annual capacity that we need for batteries. So a huge task ahead. Here we have California approving a new lithium tax to generate some revenue for the government. Newsom has approved this tax as part of a must-pass state budget on Thursday. The tax right now is structured as a flat rate per ton and will go into effect in January. State officials have agreed to study potentially switching to a percentage-based tax, which some of these lithium executives are saying they would prefer. This article is now from S&P Global, saying the state proposal comprises taxes of $400 per ton of lithium for the first 20,000 tons produced per year. The tax would increase to $600 per ton if annual input increases past 10,000 tons, and then $800 per ton for production exceeding 30,000 tons. The question now becomes, are these lithium companies in California going to choose to leave over this to perhaps go to Utah or Arkansas? Lithium sector executives told Reuters they would prefer a levy of 2% or less of lithium sales, since a flat tax could be detrimental if prices drop. In Controlled Thermal Resources, one of these private companies currently operating a lithium business in California, the CEO said the tax would force it to miss deadlines to deliver lithium to GM and Stellantis around 2024. And he continued, supporting a tax that ensures lithium imports from China are less expensive for auto manufacturers to secure will devastate this promising Californian industry before it's begun. The reason for the tax, they're saying, is to generate revenue for environmental remediation projects. So now we just have to wait and watch and see how the dominoes fall. There were a few images shared on Reddit of around 12 of GM's Chevy Bolts in the Cruise Autonomous Network in San Francisco that were stuck and blocking an intersection for a few hours. Now, this was just from one user, but they are reporting via their blog that Cruise employees had to actually come and manually drive these vehicles back to the depot. As of now, no explanation or reason has been given for what caused this type of problem. There are plenty of funny memes being generated, but you also have to think, if this was Tesla in any way, the amount of headlines saying that Teslas are a death trap and all of these things, while as we have something like this and barely anybody is picking it up. Here we have some analysis from John Murphy at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and let's just say I'm incredibly excited to put this into the prediction tracker. According to John, he's expecting Tesla's EV market share to plummet from around 70% in the United States today down to 11% in 2025. He also said he's expecting GM and Ford to each have around 15% EV market share in 2025, which would be a 10% market share jump from where they're at today. It gets better. He says that dominance Tesla's had in the EV market, particularly in the United States, is done. It's going to shift wildly in the opposite direction in the next 4 years. Now, let's just take a pause and agree that we've talked about before, Tesla's EV market share is going to come down. It's not going to remain 60-70% forever, as other automakers release EVs that some people do want to buy. The big number is once again Tesla's market share of the overall auto space, but then the question is, well, how high can they maintain it for just the EV market? John said that Elon had a vacuum for the last 10 years in which to operate where there hasn't been much competition that's come in. That vacuum is now being filled in a massive way over the next 4 years by very good product. And lastly, John says one of the biggest mistakes that whenever they, Tesla, look back at this in 5-10 years is that Tesla didn't take greater advantage of the free money it could have gotten, raise much more, open capacity faster, grow faster, and shut the door. He, being Elon, didn't. He didn't move fast enough. He didn't recognize what was going on in the market. He had tremendous hubris that they would never catch him and they would never be able to do what he's doing, and they're doing it. Now, we don't need to spend too much time with this. However, when you see lines like this where it brings emotion into the equation, you can tell that this person probably has an axe to pick or some type of ulterior motive other than just pure fact-based analysis. So let's just look at the facts and remember that he's expecting Ford and GM to have 15% EV market share and Tesla to have a lower market share of 11 in just 3 years. Well, Ford is saying that they will build 2 million EVs globally by 2026, and GM has said that it will have more than 2 million units of capacity for EVs in North America and China combined through 2025. Well, Tesla is going to be doing around 2 million vehicles in 2023. So even if his market share expectations are just for the United States, you can tell that you would have to do some very creative accounting to get to that place from this baseline. And lastly, this line right here, they should have raised more money and grew capacity faster, just shows the type of ignorance that John is working from. Tesla is moving as fast as humanly possible. There are certain bottlenecks and constraints right now, whether it's chips, supply chains, talented, hardworking employees that Tesla already has over 100,000 of, battery production and sourcing, refining, the list goes on and on. So definitely looking forward to coming back to this prediction. And look, ultimately, John's main argument was that Tesla doesn't have enough optionality or choices, and other automakers are going to have all of these choices. Well, let's not forget, if Tesla got to a point where it felt like it needed more choices, well, it's not like it can't do that in the future. And the question is, would you rather choose from 20 average mediocre pizzas or one that's objectively the best as a consumer? A quick note on the 10-year US Treasury, it's off its highs of around 3.4%, now down to around 2.9%. So it seems as though inflation fears are being replaced a little bit by recession fears, which once again is one other signal that we may only get a 50 basis point rate hike in July instead of the 75, and subsequent rate hikes after that may not be as significant as we were expecting. However, I think most people are forgetting that the quantitative tightening really hasn't started yet. It was supposed to happen in June, however, the Fed's balance sheet actually still grew in June, so we still have all of this unwinding that hasn't taken place. Now, how much of that has the market already priced in? It's anybody's guess, but let's not forget, over the next 6 to 12 months, every month we're going to have between $45 to $90 billion coming off of the Fed's balance sheet, being pulled directly out of the economy. Awesome news here, as the FCC has finally approved Starlink for use in motion. The FCC said authorizing a new class of terminals for SpaceX's satellite system will expand the range of broadband capabilities to meet the growing user demands that now require connectivity while on the move, whether driving an RV across the country, moving a freighter from Europe to the US port, or while on a domestic or international flight. And yes, this means Starlink can now continue to move forward with the deals it already has in place with Hawaiian Airlines and the semi-private charter JSX. And remember, SpaceX already had a version for RVs that was portable. However, this is different because portability is not the same as mobility. This new approval is indeed for mobility as you would think of it. Alex shared this chart of June BEV registrations in Europe for all countries, updated daily with registration data. Tesla coming in 5,700, doubling up the number 2 slot, VW. Unfortunately, it seems as though another 15 current or former Tesla employees are now also suing Tesla for racial discrimination. This is just one of those things we have to let it play out in the court system and ultimately hope for the best. If all of the claims that these employees are making were true, this absolutely needs to be sorted out and worked out. This should not go unpunished. However, is it some systemic issue at Tesla from the top down? I cannot imagine it's anything like that. So hopefully in the end, any of these employees at Tesla who have been acting in racially discriminatory ways are found out and ultimately let go. An update from our fearless leader, Mary Barra, on the upcoming Chevy Silverado, doing some testing at the proving ground. Looking forward to more pictures when they start testing on the roads in Detroit next month, sharing a picture of the Silverado. Troy's final update before we should get the official delivery numbers Saturday morning, he says 254,000. However, most importantly is this right here. Dan Ives shifting the perspective where it should be. While the softer macro clearly impacts demand around the edges in the coming quarters, we believe Tesla has ample demand capacity to hit 2 million units in 2023 globally, with production capacity that can exceed this number when factoring in Austin and Berlin to a normalized China. The point here, don't take your eye off the ball. The ball being the fact that Tesla is about to have 4 factories globally, scaled, ramped up, and eventually next year they're going to have the Cybertruck, the Semi, and hopefully the Roadster, also in production. That's just around the corner. That's the focus. Lastly, no video from me this coming Monday. I'll be spending some time with family and friends. Hopefully you guys can do the same. Please take a second to like the video if you did. Hope you guys all have a wonderful and a safe 4th of July weekend. I'll see you guys on Tuesday, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.